It's our first episode of the semester, which starts right now. I'm your host, Kate Woynerowski, and with me tonight, I have Alex and Pierson Wylie. All right, everyone, it's the first episode of the new semester, and we've got a lot to catch up on. So let's start with today's breaking news, which is Tom Brady, 6-time Super Bowl champion, retires today after 22 seasons. Guys, what are your reactions to this?
I mean, Adam Schefter, thanks for spoiling this one. I mean, I'm a little bit tired of stuff like that, where the player can't come out first and actually say it. I think as soon as Schefter tweeted, I'm like, okay, it's gonna happen. And then, yes, I know people from Brady's camp were trying to say, oh, he hasn't made a decision. I'm like, he made the decision. It's obvious. I mean, his company literally had already made the tweet out for it. He obviously was retiring. It's just kind of annoying to the fact that people like Adam Schefter and your Ian Rappaports of the world just continue just to spoil stuff like this, where they should know their places to not spoil such a huge retirement as much as I hate saying it, the GOAT of football and Tom Brady. I think I can't say I'm surprised. I can say I'm a little bit surprised because I thought he would end out on top. As soon as they finished the loss against the Rams, I was like, all right, he's gonna come back for one more year, finish out the final year of his contract, and then if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, I don't know what's going to happen. But, it shocked me definitely when I first heard the news because I did not think that was going to be the case because obviously I thought he was going to come out as a winner. But, at the end of the day, what a career. 6-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time NFL MVP, maybe 4 potentially. We still got to see if that's going to happen. And, what a career.
What do you think, Jerron?
From what I've heard about Tom Brady, I'm not much knowledgeable in this area, but I guess what a career, like he said just now.
Yeah, really. My gosh. This guy, he won 6 Super Bowls, and he did so with 2 different teams, which is impeccable in itself with the Patriots. And a lot of people thought that him winning the 5 Super Bowls with the Patriots was mainly due to Bill Belichick, but he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just to prove himself that he really is the greatest of all time. And he did that last year. And, I was shocked, like you, Pierson, that he retired this year after losing to the Rams. But you know what? He did his part in that game. He was not the reason why they lost. He played well in offense. He did the best he could have done. So
he engineered a whole comeback because the Rams really tried blowing that game as hard as possible.
You're absolutely right. Yep. So it was one of those things where if they had 5 more minutes on that clock, they would have won. But it just doesn't work that way. So I give all my props to Tom Brady. I really do. I think, as love him or hate him, you have to respect him for doing what he does. And happy retirement, Tom Brady. You deserve it. So let's move on now to our next breaking story of today. Former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores is suing the NFL, the Giants, the Broncos, and the Dolphins after, quote, sham interviews. So apparently he got a text from Bill Belichick 3 days before Brian Daboll got hired, just saying, congratulations, Brian. It was to the wrong Brian. And apparently he was getting interviewed that day. So, he is definitely suing. So, guys, what are your reactions to this?
I mean, let's be honest. He shouldn't have been fired in Miami. The Miami ownership's a joke. I argue with Washington is the worst ownership in the league. Stephen Ross doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, it's the best coach you've had, arguably, since Jimmy Johnson was the head coach in the late 90s. Like, it's the first coach in the 2000s and on to have 2 winning seasons back-to-back in Miami. I mean, I think it was a stupid decision. And then hearing all the stuff that came out, like how Stephen Ross offered to pay Brian Flores $100,000 for every loss he had that year when Flores just didn't want to tank, because Flores is a competitive guy and you want that as your coach. But sadly, Stephen Ross was like, "Oh, I just want big names all around," you know. And I heard rumors about the Broncos stuff a couple of years ago when he interviewed for that Broncos job that eventually did go to Vic Fangio. And I'm not terribly surprised because of the whole issue with the Broncos ownership too. The Giants one, I'm also not surprised because all the teams involved have terrible ownership situations. And I can't say I'm surprised, but Bill Belichick, come on now. Come on. How can you not realize which Brian you're talking to? I'm sorry. Like,
You coach basically one of the most prominent teams in the National Football League, yet you can't send the text to the correct person. I don't know what to say.
And I don't get why, and the disrespect I feel from Brian Flores. Because the last 3 times the Patriots have played the Dolphins. Dolphins have beat them every single time.
Yep.
Dolphins, it's just, I don't know. I think Brian Flores said this afternoon after everything came out that he probably just committed career suicide, and I think it's stupid because I think genuinely he is a good coach. People like him, Todd Bowles, Jim Caldwell, all deserve second chances in the league. And it's very frustrating because I do think part of it is due to the ownership status of the league and the Rooney Rule. A lot of people treat as a joke in ownership-wise, but these coaches all deserve second chances. Look at a guy like Jim Caldwell, led the Lions to actually really good seasons, and then they were like, "Oh no, we want to change things up. Go Matt Patricia." Your organization goes into the tank. Todd Bowles was doing fine in New York until they pressured him to go get Sam Darnold. Your organization goes into the tank. Brian Flores, who had turned the Dolphins into a decent team, even with a really lackluster quarterback. I think your organization's just going to go into the dump like the rest of them. I think it's all stupid, and I 100% support Brian Flores in this decision.
Yep, I absolutely agree with you on that. I think Brian Flores, he definitely deserves a second chance, and he really deserves it with the right organization, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's clear that the Giants are really the right organization, and trust me, I don't think they will be for a
I
long
thought the
time.
Broncos would have been the right organization for it, because I think it's a team that, literally is only 1 or 2 pieces away, because that's really what – he does not need to go to a rebuilding team because, I mean, yes, you want a competitive guy always as a coach, but as you saw, with his first year in Miami, how he didn't want to lose games. If you're going to a rebuilding team, that ain't going to work.
Yeah.
So he needs to go to the right place, and I hope he does get the right place for him.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Jerron, do you have anything you want to say about that?
From an outsider's perspective, this sounds very outrageous, and I'm kind of baffled just listening to this unfold, actually. So.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that's very interesting, and it'll be interesting to watch too, especially how this unfolds, really. So, something to keep track of for the future. And speaking of the future, we've got the Super Bowl coming up. We've got the Bengals and the Rams. So first, we had the Bengals win an AFC championship. What are your reactions to the Bengals finally making the Super Bowl?
Who day? My whole family whole mom's side of the family is from Cincinnati. So I was rooting for the Bengals the whole time in the playoffs. I'm happy they got it. We literally just ordered my 98-year-old granddad a new Bengals gear for the Super Bowl the other night.
Let's go.
We about made jokes with we about put Harambe on the back of the shirt, and we really wanted to make it a joke at first, but then we were like, it's probably going to be potentially the last time he sees him ever play in the Super Bowl, so let's actually make it serious. But, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this Bengals team last year from where they were, and everyone pressuring them, you need to go O-line, you need to go O-line in the draft. I am guilty because I was one of those people. However, see what happens when you put Joe Burrow with his old teammate Jamar Chase. It gave him confidence. And, I mean, that team's just stacked from a weapons standpoint with Joe Mixon in the backfield. 3 guys in your receiving core who have potential for 1,000+ every year in Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and Clemson alumni T. Higgins. A strong young tight end in C.J. Uzomah, who sucks that he's most likely out for the Super Bowl with an injury. I mean, this is just a start, I think, for this Bengals team. But I still will say I'm worried for them in the Super Bowl. Just because that O-line versus that defensive front.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But it's a great story. It's a feel-good story, especially when you're looking at that Bengals offense. But not only that Bengals defense stepping up in overtime when, let's be honest, we all thought that they were going to go home when they lost the coin toss.
We thought it was just going to be a repeat of what happened to Buffalo.
Absolutely.
I love how Josh Allen literally tweeted pain after.
That made me laugh, and honestly, I loved it. I really appreciated that. I loved that he was watching the game and reacting that way. But yeah, wow, what a story for the Bengals. So. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Jerron?
To hear a different name show up in the Super Bowl conversation, for me, that's a sign of a healthy competition, and I like to hear it.
Absolutely. You're so right. I think everyone was rooting against the Chiefs just because they did not want them to be in the Super Bowl again.
It was more than that. People are just annoyed with certain family members of Patrick Mahomes. We're happy to see them lose.
That's a totally different thing as well, but yes. Yes.
We can get into that conversation another day.
Exactly.
we can get into that.
Exactly. So for now, let's move on to the team they will be playing against, the Los Angeles Rams, also making the Super Bowl after winning the NFC Championship by taking down the San Francisco 49ers 20-17. What are your thoughts on the LA Rams making the Super Bowl?
I mean, literally, it was the perfect end of the story, for them. A year ago to the day, they traded for Matthew Stafford. That next year, they'd go and win the NFC Championship game and go to the Super Bowl. I'm excited for Matthew Stafford because I've always been a Stafford guy. I've always liked him. And here's a stat that not many people realize. I think it's a really crazy stat that no one realizes. Since 2009, he is the most game-winning drives of any quarterback in the NFL.
Really? That's interesting.
People forget how he carried those Lions teams. And people were thought, he would struggle in the bright lights. No, he didn't. He was born to work in the bright lights because he'd been through the crap hole that is that Detroit Lions organization.
Yeah, he just had no one. And that's what makes that stat so much more significant is the fact that he was on the Lions when he did this.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not just, it wasn't he's on the Patriots or on the Saints with 2 guys who you would think would lead with game-winning drives. No, he played for the Detroit Lions where, yes, the first 3 years, he had arguably, who I say, if he didn't retire early, might have gone down as the greatest wide receiver ever in Calvin Johnson. But after that, he had nothing. He had no good run game. His O-line was mediocre at best. He never had a true really good receiver besides the very end with Kenny Golladay for 2 years. But Kenny Golladay is very overrated in my opinion as well. I'm just happy for Stafford. He proved why he belongs in the conversation of the most underrated quarterbacks in NFL history and proves that he is in that hierarchy, if you can say a top 5, top 10 quarterback in this league. And also, I will say this, Jimmy G, what a run in San Francisco. Have fun. Most likely going to Pittsburgh is where I think you're going. Have a nice trip. 49ers fans, you might be happy now that you ran them out of town, but are you really going to be after we see what happens with Trey Lance? Because you're going from a guy who, yes, maybe didn't play well in the big games, but at least he got you to big games, versus the unknown quantity of Trey Lance where it's can he get us to big games? Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I think Garoppolo is more of a certainty in that organization than Trey Lance. You're absolutely right about that. It'll be interesting to see how that works out next season.
Apparently they're very harmonious on it. Report came out today that Garoppolo's team's literally helping the 49ers try and set up a trade.
Really? That's
Garoppolo's content with it. That's why also came out with him and John Lynch after the game because he knew he was done. He knew he was done.
That makes sense.
That was good. If he knew this was the last year of the 49ers, he knew that.
Yeah.
And you gotta also just respect the class that he has Like, you have this guy behind you who was drafted in the top 3 last year in the NFL draft, who fans are pressuring on for your team to play, but still sticking with it with class and fighting through every day. And I mean, as much as I think Jimmy G is overrated, I think he also at times doesn't get the respect he deserves for just being a classy player and he's not a selfish guy. Never has been. And I think he'll end up being good for any team, like a Pittsburgh or Denver that really just one solid, not even like an amazing quarterback, just a solid, consistent quarterback that won't turn the ball over, away from easily being a top-tier team in whatever conference.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's a classy enough player, and I just wish him the best wherever he goes. So, yeah. Jerome, do you have any thoughts about the Rams making the Super Bowl?
I'm just ready to see what unfolds. Looking forward to it, actually.
Absolutely. It's going to be a crazy offseason. I'm so ready. All right. Speaking of offseason, we have the college football offseason underway, and finally we know where the transfer portal's biggest prize is going to. Caleb Williams, quarterback of Oklahoma, is transferring to the University of Southern California. Guys, what do you think of this?
I mean, it was the worst kept secret, I think, throughout the transfer. I think it was pretty obvious he was going to get. Yes, there was a little bit of time where they thought, oh, he might go to Wisconsin. There's all these tie-ins. But let's be honest. Was there any doubt he wasn't going to go to Southern Cal with Lincoln Riley being there? However, I do argue this. I don't think he was the biggest prize in the transfer portal this year. I think the guy who left Southern Cal was the biggest prize. I think Jackson Dart is going to be better. And someone put this up on Twitter today. We had a 3-team trade in college football.
Basically, you're
we
so
had
right.
We had Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, and I forget who the other person was, going from Oklahoma to Southern Cal. Oklahoma getting
Mario Williams.
Yep. Yep. And then Oklahoma getting Jeff Lebby, the former Ole Miss offensive coordinator. But in return, Ole Miss got Jackson Dart and his favorite target to go to Ole Miss. I really am excited to watch Ole Miss next few years. I will say this. I think they might actually be the second best team in the SEC West for years to come. People are like, oh, A&M's going to be great. No, I think your Ole Miss and Arkansas are going to be the most fun teams to watch in the SEC West for years to come. But continuing on, though, Southern Cal still got to prove they can win a game. Like, they still got to prove that they can get into a playoff.
Right.
They had that one good year with Sam Darnold where they beat Penn State in the Rose Bowl. That's all they've done since the playoff era.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And Lincoln Riley's getting paid almost $12 million a year, got all these perks, and has all of Southern Cal now to recruit, which is one of the most rich places for recruits in all the country. He's got proven now. He's got proven next year that he can step up because you've got your quarterback from Oklahoma to follow you along. You've got players. You've got really solid talent all over that roster.
Right.
You got to win games now.
To me, I think it'll be interesting to see because they have such great offensive players now, and it's kind of like Oklahoma in that way because they had the offensive weapons, but they didn't have the defensive weapons in Oklahoma.
I'll argue this year I think they did. I think Oklahoma's defense this year is actually a lot better than it has been the last few years. I think Alex Grinch had finally found his groove as a DC.
Okay.
Is what I argue Alex Grinch finally found his groove. He's found his groove the last couple of years. I think Oklahoma's defense, yes, it's not still not on the caliber of an SEC defense or a Clemson defense.
You're right.
But I think it's definitely way better than people make it out to be. And I will argue, though, that is going to be the biggest thing for Lincoln Riley. He's got to take off that stigma of okay, we're always going to be really good offensively, but defensively is always going to be a question mark.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because there was a player I forgot about, Cory Foreman. He was the #1 recruit. He ended up picking USC because that's where he's from. It'll be interesting to see if they can basically make him a good player at USC.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. All right, let's move on to the U.S. men's soccer team. They had a shocking loss to Canada, 2-0, which crushed their hopes for qualifying for the World Cup.
Oh.
Now, I wouldn't say totally crushed, but yeah, it does hurt their chances. So, guys, what do you think of this?
Well, I would say it hurts. It just makes the road that we have left we have less error. We cannot make almost any errors on the road left. We have an easy game tomorrow night. If we can win that, that'll be big because then we go into our last round. where you have to play Mexico, we have to play Costa Rica, we have to play Panama. All 3 teams who are going to be fighting with us for those qualification spots. So, U.S. has to win tomorrow. If U.S. wins tomorrow night, they can go in to that last round of qualifying games feeling at least like, okay, we control our own destiny. We don't have to hope for things to happen. But they got to win tomorrow night. But the pressure is on. Because, I mean, if the U.S. misses 2 World Cups in a row, that's just embarrassing. Considering how much talent we have right now on the American team, yes, they're young. Yes, they're a little bit inexperienced. But from a talent standpoint, we should be better. We should be easily qualifying for the World Cup, especially in CONCACAF.
I'll have to agree with you on that. And make no mistake, our U.S. men's team is filled with talent, but they just play like with pride that isn't deserved. I don't know how to just look at the match for tomorrow and that kind of stuff. Just memories of Trinidad last 4 years ago and crashing out there. I'm just hoping that this time around is just much better.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Don't remind me of Trinidad. Don't even remind me of that. Don't even remind me of Lexi Lawless and Terry Twellman wanting to just drop F-bombs on both Fox and ESPN in the days afterward.
Oh, we can't have that happen again.
No, we can't.
I mean, I have more hope for this team, but again, if they don't qualify, I don't know what to say at this point. It's just, they got to qualify, and they've got no room for error at this point. So, all right, now that we've moved on from headlines, it's time to play Buy or Sell.
Yes.
So I'm going to read a statement, and if you agree with it, you're going to buy it, and if you disagree, you're going to sell it. So we're going to start with some tennis. So Rafael Nadal just broke the Grand Slam record as he won the Australian Open this weekend. Guys, his record will be surpassed by Djokovic. Buy or sell?
I'm selling that just because of the fact that Djokovic doesn't want to seem to get a vaccine at the moment.
Yep.
And let's be brutally honest, with the Grand Slams coming up, I mean, yes, I know he's going to have to get it for the U.S. Open at least in the fall because it's required in the state of New York. He's probably going to have to get it for Wimbledon. I would assume he's got to get it for the French Open too. And that French Open, you can automatically give a win to Nadal.
I was just going to say, that will be an automatic
Nadal
W
is
there.
the king of clay. So, I mean, until Djokovic gets a vaccine, that's a sell. That's 100% a sell.
I'll have to agree with that sell. I think that's a huge hindrance in his way right there.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to get the poke in the arm. Doesn't want to get.
Nope.
No pokey pokey. No hokey pokey, and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about.
Wow, that's it. And who knew something like that would come between the records for Djokovic? I think it's just crazy. All right, moving on. This week we had David Ortiz make the Hall of Fame baseball. However, he is the one and only player to make it this year. And those who didn't make it are Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds. Guys, are we buying and selling the fact that they should have made the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Oh, 100% Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens should easily be in the Hall of Fame. First point, David Ortiz makes it in on his first ballot when he has a positive PED test on record. But let's be honest here. The only reason why he got in and people like Bonds and Clemens didn't get in is because he wasn't a jerk to the media. That's really it. David Ortiz is the media favorite. So all the old school baseball writers are going to easily vote him, even though he has more substantial evidence against him for PED use. Look at David Ortiz before 2003 when he tested positive for PEDs. People are like, oh, Barry Bonds ballooned up. Look at David Ortiz when he was in Minnesota compared to when he went to Boston. Dude was a balloon. He literally ballooned up and just went, oh, and started hitting baseballs. Here's another stat. Barry Bonds, if you take away all his home runs, he still has a higher on-base percentage than David Ortiz does in his career. Barry Bonds, I think, here's the thing. If he doesn't use steroids, Barry Bonds easily makes the Hall of Fame. Because he ends up with stats, I argue, of around 400 to 500 home runs. His defense, he was arguably the most underrated defender at his time. He just lost athleticism because of steroids. So he wouldn't have lost athleticism, I think, as much. He had a lot more stolen bases. Yes, some runs would have gone down, but he would have been much more of a five-tool player. I would have compared his candidacy to someone like a Chipper Jones almost. Like, that was pretty easily a first ballot Hall of Fame with their stats. I don't know. And then Clemens, Clemens definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. However, I think the case against him is a little bit stronger just because some of the stats he put up at the end of his career really were ridiculous because of the roids, and I think it helped balloon his Cy Young total a little bit more. I think the more interesting case to look at is someone like a Kurt Schilling. If his politics weren't involved, I think 100% makes the Hall of Fame as well. But here's the thing. They can still make the Hall of Fame because of the Players Game Committee. And most likely, I can almost guarantee Schilling's going to make it in just because the players are just going to throw the political crap to the side. He'll make it in. Bonds and Clemens will definitely be tougher, I think. I think Bonds has definitely got a better case than Clemens does just because...
I was going to say, Bonds probably has a better shot at making it with the players than Clemens, in my opinion.
Because Clemens is just hated by everyone. That's the thing. Bonds was kind of a jerk to his teammates as well. I mean, if you want to go watch a video, go watch SB Nation's beef history video between him and Jeff Kent. Recommend it to see how much of a jerk Barry Bonds was to his teammates. But he still, I think, had the respect among players enough that he will make a Hall of Fame someday. Might be a long time, but he'll make it. I think it's just because of the old school baseball writers, and they hold grudges. Because Bonds and Clemens were absolute a-holes to them when they were players. While people like David Ortiz like, come here, talk to me. I'm Big Papi, talk to me.
I mean, that's pretty much a good case right there. I mean, again, it's one of those things where with the PEDs, you could argue with that, but you got to enforce that for every single player, right? Who tests positive for these PEDs. You can't just throw around exceptions.
Exactly.
Right?
And here's the other thing. Here's another thing I want to bring up with David Ortiz. His teammate, Manny Ramirez, who put up the same pretty much identical stat, got busted for PEDs. And look, he fell down the boards and he was liked by the media.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hypocrisy. It's just because, I can go on for days about it.
Pearson, I really appreciate that rant. You really wanted this
I
topic.
needed to get on the soapbox about this because I hate the Baseball Writers Association of America. I've hated it forever. I think there's a lot more deserving players that should be in the Hall of Fame that can't be because of PED crap and I think it's not even the PED crap now. I think it's just how they were treated. It's politics and how they were treated by the players in their time, and they hold grudges. Yeah. They're old school and they'll hold grudges. They won't just let things go.
Yeah, exactly. Jerron, are we buying or selling this? Now, Pierson went on his rant.
I'll have to agree with Pierson. His passion sold me on his buy, right?
I know, right? I mean, you had a pretty good argument there. You lie about that. Yeah, so let's move on to the NFL once again. And let's move on to Jim Harbaugh. Apparently, there are rumors that he's going to coach in the NFL once again after leading Michigan to the college football playoff for the first time. His defensive coordinator already went to the Ravens, so are we buying or selling the fact that Jim Harbaugh is going to return to the NFL?
So, short before he came in, I saw a report that pretty much was almost official that he's coming to the Vikings. However, let's not forget, reports can be wrong. True. I kind of want to sell this because the fact, I know, yes, Harbaugh said he has unfinished business in the NFL, but Michigan's his alma mater. And I really think at the end of the day, Harbaugh is a selfish person at times. I think it might be because it's all about the Benjamins. He might want some more money.
Amen to that.
That might be why he's saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the Vikings, Michigan now." But then again, I can't really say that because he handed over his salary to his assistants last year, so I really can't say that. And to the athletic department, so I'm gonna buy it. I think he's going back to the NFL just based on the fact he's got unfinished business. And heck, the Vikings to get him, I think that's a good move for them, actually. The Vikings are one of those teams where it's they really are just two pieces away from being a really good team as well. They're in that Broncos camp almost of being one or two pieces away from being a really good team. Yeah. So I will buy it. It's just, I hate the fact of the matter is that he would pick the NFL over staying as alma mater. Like leaves a bad
me too.
taste in my mouth a little bit.
I agree. John, what do you think? Buy or sell this?
I'll have to lay my hands off of this one.
All right, that's fair. I think I'm going to buy this as well, but it's interesting. The timing of this would make sense because tomorrow is National Signing Day. So it's interesting. I was reading something. If there were any justice in this world, Harbaugh would hold a press conference tomorrow on National Signing Day with a table, Michigan hat, a Vikings hat, and a Dolphins hat. Which one do you think he'd pick?
He threw out the Dolphins hat, it sounds like. He sounds like he's throwing that one away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just think that would be pretty cool. I think that would be pretty nice. I think it'd be funny. But
I think it would be hilarious, but.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. All right, moving on. Last topic, NFL overtime rules. There has been so much controversy about this, especially during the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs overtime game, when there were two high-power offenses going against each other, but only one could take the field due to a coin toss. Guys, are we buying or selling the fact that the NFL overtime rules should be changed?
Oh, I'm buying 100% they need to be changed. It's been said this for years now. I mean, let's be honest, ties shouldn't be a thing in the NFL. I really think the way they should do it is similar to college football. However, it wouldn't start from the opposing 25. I'd have to start from there. I would still do a kickoff and everything. I would do it like that. But I would just make it untimed. I would just do untimed drives. Like, yes, you have the play clock going, obviously, but you're not playing with time, I think, would be the way I would do it. Just because you would have that ability to answer and everything and not have to feel pressure.
You're right.
I definitely think there should be a way to just answer for a touchdown. Like, it's just, it's frustrating because I think that game, to be honest, may have not ended forever. That game might have gone on and on.
It could have, and you know what? I would have been here for it.
I would have been fine with it. That was a great birthday present on my 21st birthday to watch the Bills and Chiefs play one of the greatest games I've ever seen, but then get very annoyed at the ending and just felt like I had a bad taste in my mouth.
It does. And you know what? It also couldn't have come at a better time in the way that Tom Brady's retiring, and you have two of the best quarterbacks right now, this generation of quarterbacks, going against each other, and one only gets to go on the field for overtime. It's so wrong, in my opinion.
I agree.
And I know defense is important, and the Bengals did show that at least, but you know what? When it's a game where you have two offenses and you can't stop them on defense, well, a coin toss can't decide the game.
Yeah, coin toss can't decide the game. Because, I mean, let's be honest, at the end of that game, neither defense was stopping either one of them. I mean, let's be honest, though. Should the game have gone to overtime? No, it shouldn't have.
No.
Bills really botched their defense at the end of that game.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have played prevent defense. They should have pressed up on the line the whole time. They shouldn't have just given them like the 15-yard chunk plays. They should have been playing man coverage on the line with the deep high safety is what they should have called instead of playing quarters defense with playing prevent. That's why they lost the game. I get it's not because of that game I have the argument for it. It's a long-term thing. I think NFL fans are just kind of tired of the overtime rules. I think in general, it's not. Yes, that game I think helped it a lot, but
it's too bad that game helped it a lot.
Yeah.
Because it, of course, comes at the cost of Josh Allen and his legacy, potentially, and the Bills fans, of course, and the players.
I mean, I think his legacy, he single-handedly carried them in that game, let's be honest.
Well, I'm saying, maybe that could have cost him a Super Bowl, or it could have cost him,
it could have cost the Bills more pain, though. It could have been a fifth Super Bowl loss for them.
That's true, too. I mean, it definitely came with its benefits and costs. But, of course, you got to play it out with both defenses, in my opinion. I'm buying this. John, are we buying or selling this?
From discussions between my roommates and what I've seen on Twitter, I'll be buying this one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And let's hope they change soon because I'm tired of arguing this for the 5th year straight. So, all right, guys, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week, next time on The Extra Point.